I'm Ryan Green.
And I'm Zack Taylor.
And together we are Commander Social. And this week we're going to talk to you about how you feel about being milled or having your cards taken with something like Gonti, Lord of Luxury. So that's our plan for this episode. And it's going to try to be like a level up episode to kind of tell you how we feel about it and some ways to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. We're just offering you different opinions and ideas that you might not have thought of.
All right. So we want to thank everyone out there in audience land. Thank you so much.
For sure.
We couldn't and wouldn't do this without you. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please remember to hit the like button,
the subscribe button,
and the bell for ring-a-ding notifications. All right. So it is time to thank our patrons. Seriously, y'all, thank you so much. It's crazy how much feedback and how much input and constructive feedback we get from y'all, and also just get to hear about what's going on in your lives in the Discord. It's
it's great. I really it's one of the bigger things that I enjoy about it.
Indeed. And we want to give a special thank you to our patron of the week, Haribo Weber. So thank you so much. You've been with us for a couple of months now, and we really appreciate you. So thank you. And a way to say thank you to the patrons is with our patron contest,
right?
All right. So what are we doing this month?
This month we have a Theros Beyond Death collector booster.
Shiny.
I don't know if you know it, but this is supercharged. It says it right here. Supercharged.
Word. All right.
Upgrade your collection, bro. Upgrade your collection.
Supercharge it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It's pretty sweet.
So basically, all you have to do is be any tier patron by the end of February, and you will be entered to win this cool Theros collector's booster.
And isn't there another way that you can get a Theros Beyond Death collector's booster?
But that's not all, folks.
Right?
If you want to join in our patron-only Brawl tournament on MTG Arena, you could also win a Theros Beyond Death collector's booster. That's right. There are two of them here. We've got two.
Oh, I was gonna say that yours, that was the same one that secretly slipped to your side of the table. No, we have two for real. There's two of them.
Woo. Yeah. All right, yeah. So
both supercharged.
Mine's more supercharged.
Is it? Okay.
Mine's super duper charged.
Oh man, mine's just supercharged. Lame.
But yeah, so there you go. So yeah, just be a patron by the time that tournament starts, which is going to be towards the end of February. Yep. And a reminder that we are going to be having decks where you use a legendary creature or planeswalker from Theros Beyond Death.
Yep.
I've already started practicing.
Have you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Did you make a deck already?
I did.
Wow, you're really on it. I haven't.
And by make a deck, I copied one from the internet.
What? Net decking? That's okay. I'm probably going to do the same.
All right. So we don't want to leave our Twitter followers out in the cold.
Nope.
So thank you so much for helping us on Twitter and giving us feedback there as well. And you could be entered to win 3 regular Theros Beyond Death booster packs.
Right.
And how are they going to do that, Zach?
You can... There's a tweet that went out.
It's a tweet.
Yep. You like it.
It's a tweet.
And you retweet it. And you follow us. And you reply with tagging 3 of your bestest friends.
Or professional wrestlers.
Yeah. Actual, you can't just say name. You have to at The Undertaker. Next month's theme is going to be rappers.
There you go. For sure.
Your favorite 3 rappers.
All right. And if you want to get at us on Twitter, I'm at Green Geek.
And I'm at Z4CK38. And together we're at Commander Social.
All right. So, Zach, what's been going on in your life, man?
No, it's just, like I said, usual stuff, working, things like that. Doing something a little different this weekend, though. I'm going speed dating. So,
That's when you try to date the Flash?
Yes. I'm a big fan of the Flash and I would like to date him. No, it's like on TV where, girls sit at tables and guys have a drink that they carry with them from table to table. And for, quote unquote, 7 to 10 minutes, you speak with a girl and, you have cards. And if, they want to... It's like Tinder in real life, basically.
Are the cards magic cards?
No.
Because 7 to 10 minutes is not enough time to play a game of Commander.
No, absolutely not. You can't play some Pike Gal. But, it's going to be fun. You're going to hang out. A bunch of people from work are going to come and harass me. It's going to be a great time. I'm actually pretty excited about it. I think it'll be fun. It's kind of outside my comfort zone, but, it's something new to do.
I'm really sad I can't be there. We were originally planning to do that, but my wife is going to a concert, so I will be hanging out with my kids.
So Ryan, what have you been up to?
All right. Well, it's time for your hashtag MTG dad moment. And this one's for my daughter, Veronica. So my daughter has this habit of, if she spills even just like a drop or two of water on her shirt, she's like, I can't wear this shirt anymore. It's wet, and she has to take it off or, put a new shirt on. So oftentimes the way this manifests itself is I get home and my daughter's not wearing a shirt.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because she's like, well, I spilled water on it. Yep, time to take it off. And sometimes, when you have kids, you just you let that be the thing, because she's going to drink more water and she's going to spill more water, and then you're washing like shirts all the time. And, but I just think it's really cute because, I don't like having spilled stuff on me either, but we're talking like an infinitesimally small amount of water, right? Like, like literally
like
a drop.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah. And it's like, it'll dry in like 5 minutes. But it's unacceptable.
She can't even when it happens.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just think it's really cute because, she's got like these things, these quirks and these traits already.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think it's cool to see. And I don't know, it's something that I'll tease her about when she's older, probably.
So, yeah. I mean, she definitely has like habits like, insulting me.
I mean, can you blame her though? Like,
I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. She's learned from the best.
All right. So it's time to do that thing we do every episode, which is thank one Mr. Mike Condon. You are our silent partner, our audio engineer, and dear friend. And we wanted to thank you for all of that, as well as the Pure Moods CD.
Direct from Europe, featuring Inya and Enigma.
Indeed.
I mean, I don't know. I've definitely been listening to the CD in my car on the way to work every day, and it puts me in a mood.
Would you say that mood is pure?
Yes.
All right.
So yeah, it's like been making my day at work pretty good. It gets me into a pure mood to do some work.
All right, so it's time for a segment we like to call Commander Rules. So on Commander Rules, we like to take a deep dive into the comprehensive rules of Magic the Gathering, and this week's rule is 704.3.
I don't know that one.
Okay.
Unless I do.
You might.
Okay.
All right. This is a long one.
Is it Dredge?
Is not.
Okay.
Chances of knowing it going down as we speak. All right. 704.3 states, whenever a player would get priority, see Rule 117, timing and priority, the game checks for any of the listed conditions for state-based actions.
The what conditions?
The listed conditions?
Listed. Okay. I thought you said illicit. I was like, whoa.
About the things I'm about to list.
Okay.
So then performs all applicable state-based actions simultaneously as a single event. If any state-based actions are performed as a result of the check is repeated. Otherwise, all triggered abilities that are waiting to be put on the stack are put on the stack, then the check is repeated. Once no more state-based actions have been performed as a result of the check, and no triggered abilities are waiting to be put on the stack, the appropriate player gets priority. This process also occurs during the cleanup step, see Rule 514, except that if no state-based actions are performed as a result of the step's first check, and no triggered abilities are waiting to be put on the stack, then no player gets priority, and the step ends. And that's the end. What do you think?
So Ryan, when we play Magic, you know how sometimes like someone will try to read me a card and I'll be like, I just like see it? And then I have to like read it for myself.
Would you like to see my phone?
I feel like I need to read this for myself.
All right. So for our audio listeners, Zach now has my phone.
So
I'm phoneless.
Which one is this?
704.3. Okay. So we're talking about state-based actions, and you might wonder, what is a state-based action? And I'm gonna list a few here. These are from knowledge. I didn't read them in here.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, this didn't list what the state-based actions were.
So, for example, a creature with 0 or less toughness dies.
Yeah.
Right? That's a state-based action.
Having 0 life now is a state-based action, because remember, you used to die at the end of a phase.
That's right. Exactly right. And another one is, an aura enchanting a permanent that it can no longer enchant because it got like protection from the color of that aura. The enchantment will fall off as a state-based action.
Okay. No, I get it now. I was just like, but you didn't list any what the state-based actions were, and I thought you were going to because you said listed.
Yeah, I did say listed because that's what the rule says. But
I saw that for myself, but like you would think there would be like a link in there saying, hey, here's a list of the
Here's a bunch of them, yeah.
Yeah, because like the only one that I really know like is the you die immediately as opposed to at the end of a phase now. Like I mean, I know the ones you mentioned.
There's a lot here. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
there's a whole lot here.
There is like Rule 700 for like A, B, C, D through Q. Like,
it's a humdinger.
Yeah.
It's a doozy.
So yeah, I mean, that's pretty good. I think our listeners maybe will get something out of that, I hope.
Yeah, I think that like knowing that that's the process of how a creature dies, right? Like that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And the fact that like they get like state-based actions get checked again and again, and then like when the person receives priority, I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting. So, folks out there in audience land, what did you think? Is this news to you? Did you like this rule? Do you have questions about this rule? Follow up, and then we'll refer you to a judge.
Right? Like there's this website that you can Google that like there's a judge in there like 24/7. You know, if you have questions, that's where you should go. Not don't add us.
No, do add us. We'll try. Well, at least do at me.
At you,
yeah. Do at Ryan.
At Ryan. Slip into Ryan's DMs with your rule questions.
All right. So that is it for Commander Rules, which is going to move us right on into the main topic, which is how I learned to stop worrying and love the mill.
Yep. I like it. So we have the obligatory Commander Social disclaimer. We're not telling you how to feel. We're just talking about the results of some polling on the subject of milling, and kind of stating how we feel and why we feel that way. Maybe you don't feel this way. That's okay. You can feel your feelings. We're not trying to stop you. We're just telling you what ours are.
Word. Okay, so what is milling?
Milling's is based on a card from back in the Dizzle called Millstone. I definitely remember when I first came back to Magic, I was playing a game day, and I was playing Millstone because I was like, I like to mill, and mill was like possible in competitive Magic. But I was playing this girl, and she was younger than me. She was a lot younger than me, and she just like laughs at me, and I was like, what? And she's like, I think Millstone's a little slow for this format. And I was like, really? I was like, back in the day, I thought Millstone was good.
All right, so let's read out Millstone for the folks at home.
It's 2.
That's correct.
And you pay 1, tap it. Target player puts top card of their library into their graveyard.
So close. It is 2. It's 2 and tap, and it's the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. And of course,
that's not too slow.
Yeah, and we should also point out that you can win this way, right?
Yeah.
But we're not specifically talking about winning via mill this episode. It's more just like, how do you feel when you see your cards go to the graveyard?
Right. Like we're not talking about some sort of combo like milling out until you're out of cards, but like more like, and you get incidentally milled, right? Like, I don't know, what's a card that incidentally mills?
Mesmeric Orb?
Yeah. Or like you get Glimpse the Unthinkable.
Yeah, there you go. Or Traumatize.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So the idea here is like, how do you feel like when you get milled and you see like your good cards go away?
Yeah.
Right? And so something that I've noticed, and I've played Magic for a long time, and
me too.
Yeah.
Humble brag.
Yeah, there it is. I've noticed that people don't really like it when they get milled, and I kind of want to challenge that notion, right? Because I was a new player once also.
Were you?
Right? Yeah. I mean, we all were.
Yeah.
Except for you. You were born with innate skill.
I was born this way.
Yeah.
Born this way, baby.
Lady Gaga fan through and through. But
is that a Lady Gaga song?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I thought I made that line up.
Nope.
Cool.
But anyway, I've noticed that a lot of people feel sad when they see like their good cards get milled away.
Yeah.
And another one, for example, would be Gonti Lord of Luxury, and I'm going to read this card out. So
Ryan has a Gonti Lord of Luxury deck. So the deal about Ryan's Gonti Lord of Luxury deck is he can Gonti multiple times.
Oh, for sure. Because what do you do with your life if you're not Gontiing a bunch? Okay.
Right.
So Gonti Lord of Luxury is 2 black for a 2/3 legendary creature, Aetherborn Rogue with Death Touch. When Gonti Lord of Luxury enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down, and then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. For as long as that card remains exiled, you may look at it. Cool. You may cast it. Even cooler. And you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast it. The coolest.
Dope.
Yeah, okay. So a lot of I have a Gonti Lord of Luxury deck.
You do.
And I noticed that sometimes like
it's luxurious.
When I use it on people, they feel bad. And I think part of Gonti is like not knowing, right?
Yeah.
Like that's part of the thing.
That's my thing. Is I'm always just I'm never upset. I'm always just real curious.
What's in the box, right? Like that's what it is, right? But I think that there's another one. Like I have a Grenzo Havoc Razor deck, and that will exile cards from the top of your opponent's libraries, and then you get to play them. And I've had backlash happen. Like when I play these cards, people are like, well, I don't want you taking my cards, right? And so one of the things that I think about when I play these decks is I'm like, well, I'm going out of my way to like not steal a card from you, right? I want to play with your cards, but I don't want to like deprive you of options, right? And so that's kind of one of the things that we're going to hit on a little bit later in this episode. But one thing I specifically know is that for newer players, they tend to like really take this poorly, right?
Yeah.
Like they tend to lose cards either via milling or something like Gonti, and it feels bad, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. And I can understand why. Like if you don't like think it all the way through, like it can't feel bad, it's like, oh, well, I didn't get that, or, and
where you're like, oh man, I just added that card to my deck and now I don't get to play it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that actually happened, right? I got to cast somebody's Bitter Blossom that they'd added from the Secret Layers decks that we met up here in Austin. And I did feel slightly bad about that because like they just added it.
Poor Peyton.
Yeah.
Poor Peyton.
But you know what? That's sometimes that's the price of playing with other people's cards, I suppose. But so one thing I wanted to ask is, and this is a question actually out there for everyone in audience land as well, which is when you mulligan, do you look at the top card or two after you mulligan to like see if it was a good decision?
I mean, I don't, because like it doesn't matter. I already made the decision. Like why look, right? Like it doesn't matter. That's something that's not going to happen. So I don't bother. I never have.
So I think there's two ways to think about this, specifically the mulliganing piece, and that is like number one, if you're looking to like determine if it was the right decision, that is the wrong way to think about it, because like it was the right decision. You know what was on the top could have changed, but that Magic has variance, right?
Right. There's no telling what's on top.
But like if you're looking at it and going, oh, I made the wrong decision because I was going to get there, that's like results oriented thinking, and like that's like something Marshall on Limited Resources talks about all the time in LSV, right? And you want to try to avoid the results oriented thinking because it's going to make you tweak your game in ways that aren't necessarily going to help you.
You don't need to, yeah.
But the other side of this coin is if you do look and it was just like, well, I want that data point, like I'm going to look every time, and like 60% of the time I made the right decision. Okay, then I should be doing this, right?
Right.
That's the other way to think about it.
I think that's an okay way to look at it. Like basically, if I understand you correctly, it's like you're evaluating your mulligan skill at that point, not trying to see, oh, would I've gotten there? It's, am I making the right mulligans?
Right. But even still, like even all that said, I still don't look to this day because I don't want to accidentally slip into results oriented thinking.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm just curious as to what all the folks out there do. But we're going to move right on into a story about my dad. So my dad is the OG lover of the millstone. He had an antiquities one, right? And he loved it. And he would always revel in it. Like, oh, look, I milled your Lord of the Pit. You don't get that this game. Ha 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 ha. Right. Like, and he would run it in like decks that weren't mill decks. Right.
It sounds like a good man. Good man.
Yeah. Even in Commander, like it's not a dedicated mill strategy. It's a Boros attacking strategy, but I got my millstone. And I'm serious. Right. And so the thing is, like, my dad like loved that reveal. Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh, did I get something or did I not get something? And the thing for me is that like I actively want to be milled.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
and
same.
so like every time, like, he'd be like, well, who wants the millstone? I'd be like, me, pick me. Because I want to know like the cards, and like sometimes like, oh, look, it's 2 lands and I already have a ton of lands. You just got me closer to my gas, right? Like, you just got me closer to playing like good cards.
Yeah.
And like on average, it's going to work out that way, right? Like,
yeah.
Sometimes it's going to help you. Sometimes it's going to hurt you. But on average, it's not going to do anything. Like if you think about it, like anytime you get milled, it's like, well, my opponent cut my deck 2 cards deeper, right? Like that's kind of the way to think about it.
Yeah.
But there's even like a slightly better thing, which is like those cards are now in your graveyard.
Right.
And you have information.
Yeah, that's more information.
And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. So what I really want to do is convince all the folks out there that being milled is not bad. There's the case of like, oh, well, getting milled out, like losing to mill feels slightly bad. And I get that. I understand that because it's rarer and it feels like, oh, I lost this to this like quirky strategy that I wasn't supposed to lose to.
I mean, I'm okay with it, honestly. If I get milled out, like milling out a table in EDH is hard. If you can do it, bravo.
It is an uphill battle for sure.
For sure. I've tried so many times. So, I mean, since we're kind of like looking at like ourselves on this issue and like, we're talking about how we feel, like, Ryan and I had this conversation, and honestly, starting off, like, I was on the other side of this. I was like, getting milled feels bad. Like, I was never really like annoyed by it, but like in the example, like I had put like, we were playing a game and with some people, and Ryan had Imri out with Mesmeric Orb, which it's an artifact that just says whenever you untap, you
each permanent you untap, you mill yourself for one.
Yeah. And what's happening, and I ended up milling several cards that I just added into my Yawgmoth deck, and I was just like, man, that feels like kind of bad. Like, I wasn't mad about it, but I was like, I wish I could have. I wish that those, I'm just sad because those are possibilities of cards that I could have played, right? But Ryan.
So it's kind of like a FOMO kind of thing.
Yeah, a little bit. It was like, it's like I wanted to play with that card, and now I can't. Right. But Ryan and I like we had a pretty long discussion about it.
Yeah, and actually, I remember like being like, okay, this is now a personal mission. Like, I want to like talk to Zack and like make him feel better, and because I feel like it's kind of like a level up moment. Right. I feel like it's like a way to feel better and to get better about the game if you can kind of like logically take this stuff apart, right?
Right. And the thing was, you weren't like mean or a jerk about anything, because you straight up said, you were like, well, maybe I am wrong. Like, convince me of your side of it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love being convinced of stuff.
Yeah, like I'm always open. Like, I may think something's wrong. That's right. Or I may think something incorrect, and I want to know, right? Like, I'm not infallible. None of us are. I mean, except me, but except in this one situation. Yeah. Right, but Ryan, what were some of the questions you?
Yeah, okay. So I kind of started like trying to probe, because again, it was like a back and forth. It wasn't like a thing, but it's something that I firmly believed. I was like, I think getting milled is good, and it gives me knowledge and it gives me options, and like it's like I got cut to a different spot on my deck, so like I don't really feel bad. But I think the first question I said was like, well, why do you feel sad when you get milled?
Yeah, and that's where I was like, it's like that's just a possibility of a card, like my Cabal Coffers gets milled, or like my big creature or
Cyclonic Rift,
or my Cyclonic Rift gets milled. It's like, I can't cast that now, and that feels bad. Maybe I would have wanted that later or something.
And so then I kind of followed up and I said, okay, I get that. All right. So I said, do you feel the same kind of sadness when you don't draw a particular card during a game?
And to that, I was like, I believe I was like, no, because like, I know what's on top of my card, on top of my deck is random, unless I have a Sensei's Divining top.
And then the top three are known, yeah.
But no, generally speaking, it's like, you have no idea. It's like, yeah, sure, I'd love to get whatever answer I need right when I need it, right? But I don't expect that.
And I was trying to kind of equate those two situations to being the same, right? It's like, well, they got milled, or you didn't draw them that game, and those are kind of the same thing in my mind, or the way I think about it, right? And so I was kind of trying to like say, hey, like if you don't feel sad about not drawing a card during a game, you probably shouldn't feel bad if it got milled, because it's kind of like you just were never going to draw it that game.
Exactly. And think that's where I started, kind of open up to this idea. And then Ryan was like, well, like, think about this, like, what if like you started like half your deck in your graveyard? Like, would you do that? And I thought about it, and I was like, yeah, I totally would, right? Because it's so good for like multiple reasons. Like, one, the information, right? So your deck's thinner. So your options are thinner, but because you know what's in your graveyard, you know what options are left in your deck, and because your deck's half the size, you're that much more likely to get the options you have.
And it allows you to formulate a better plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then, so another one I said was, well, would you feel differently if instead of them getting milled, they just got revealed and then put on the bottom of your library? Right?
Yeah.
And you were like, no, I don't think I'd feel bad. Right?
Yeah. No, because my original thinking there was, well, there's still an option, but like in a 100-card singleton, not really.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom might as well be non-existent unless you shuffle a bunch, which does happen.
I mean, what's that deck that you play that shuffles a bunch? Some Val Smasher?
Yeah, that deck shuffles like every turn.
Shuffles tribal?
Yeah. Or ramp tribal, yeah, for sure. Okay, so then one of the points I wanted to make then was like, well, you're expending this mental energy on feeling bad.
Yeah.
Right? You're actively like spending time thinking about like what it would have been like to play that Cabal Coffers or those new cards that you added to Yogg Dog. And like, instead of feeling bad about that, if it was just normal or neutral or you didn't really think about it at all, and you just said, okay, well, now I'm just going to take that knowledge and use it to adjust my plan, you could be spending that mental energy on making a plan.
Right.
Right. And so so for example, like during any game of Magic, maybe you have like, let's say 100 mental energy points to spend.
Right.
Okay. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to spend 5 of them feeling bad for these cards that got milled. Well, that's 5 less you have, right? So now you only get to spend 95 on your plan. And these numbers are made up, but the point there is they're still taking some like mental taxation on you.
Right.
And if you can kind of like have this level up and get past that, you know, you're going to have like, it's a small edge, but it's still an edge to like, you know, be thinking about other things. Right. And I like specifically having a plan, that was your point.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that folks out there could learn, especially newer players. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was a thing that I felt very passionate about. And I think after we had a very long discussion, you've come around to
absolutely.
my side.
And I've even said it to other people who are kind of like, nah, I don't know. And I've tried to explain it and they're like, nah, I don't think so. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I mean, you feel the way you feel.
Of course. Yeah. And everyone's feelings are valid, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This if you feel it, it's a valid feeling.
Yeah, for sure. This is just like an impassioned plea to say, think about it.
Yeah,
think about how you feel.
Yeah, like this is like, in my opinion, being part of being like self-aware, right? Like examining your own feelings, comparing them to how, you know, or thinking about your own opinions about something, and then being open to hear and consider other opinions that maybe can lead you to a better place. And maybe you don't. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. Right? This is just how we feel about it.
Well, and also I think this is the way you get better, right?
Yeah.
Like by talking about things.
Oh, exactly.
Examining things.
Yeah.
You know, self-awareness, that kind of stuff, right?
And the thing is, like, the part of the conversation that impressed me, and it's like this with all our conversations, really, but you were also willing to let it be a level up moment for you. And if I were able to convince you of my side,
definitely.
Right? Like,
I would have loved that. Yeah, for sure.
If I had a valid, which I didn't, but I'm saying if I had, you know, you were ready to level up yourself, and I think that's important too. And that's kind of how we're saying it's like, you know, so if you have a different opinion on this, right, let us know on Twitter or in the YouTube comments. Like, we'd love to hear it and discuss it. You know, maybe if you want to go to patreon.com and /Commander Social and become a patron, you could hit us up in Discord about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I will say there are some like valid points that some of the folks raised in the Twitter
absolutely.
things. So it's not a completely black and white issue.
It's not.
But it is, I don't know. I like thinking about things like this.
I do too, right? And like, if someone else had like I don't want to say argument because it's not an argument, but they had a point, you know, on this that is different, I'd love to hear it. I mean, I'm open to that. And
also, like, just quick little side note, like, even if my mind isn't changed, just having the discussion and being open-minded and being willing to have the discussion and being willing to have your mind changed is a really good thing. Yeah,
it really is, because like we said before, unless you're me, you're not infallible. And like, you know, I think that's something that kind of translates over into life too. You know, there have been things that I had formed opinions on that I didn't know about, right? And then I find out about it, I'm like, oh, it turns out I like Thai food. Or it turns out whatever, you know? I mean, I've always loved Thai food. But
I mean, Thai food is the best.
It is.
For sure. Okay.
Shout out to Madam Hams.
Yeah. All right. So is it here or are we this part next?
I feel like we're down to this part.
Okay. So one point to make here is that being milled is not the same as discarding cards from your hand.
So thought seizing isn't the same as being millstoned.
That's right. Or even Siphon Mind is a big one that we would play in
Commander.
Yeah. Okay. Likewise, taking a card from the top of somebody's library with Gonti is not the same as casting control magic on their creature, right? Like even if you play like some cool creature, they didn't invest a card or resources into casting that creature,
Right.
It was just some possibility that no longer was possible after Gonti happened. But even then, you don't necessarily know. So again, when you get millstoned, you still have all the cards in your hand. You still had all the plays that were available to you. And in fact, actually, you have more, right? Because maybe one of the cards that gets milled, you can flash it back.
Right.
Right. So, and at the very worst case.
Or it can escape. That's a new thing.
Oh, yeah. From Theros Beyond Death, you can escape, right? Could be that new Elspeth, right?
Yep.
But at the very worst case, you have additional knowledge that you didn't have before, right? You're like, well, there's 30 lands left in my deck and 2 of them got milled. So now there's only 28. So my chances of drawing a land next turn have decreased slightly.
Right.
And I can use that to make a different play.
Yeah, it's like you can make a more informed decision.
Exactly. Okay. So I think, let's see, what else? Okay. So another thing is that graveyards matter in Magic.
They do.
I kind of call it my second hand. And
Yeah,
a lot of my decks
bit.
play that way. And it's like, for example, when you get Bojuka Bogged, right?
Yeah, getting Bojuka Bogged at the right time when you're playing a certain deck is just devastating.
And because that feels bad, it's like, well, the inverse of that, getting cards put into your graveyard should and maybe could feel good.
Right.
Right? Or could and maybe should is what I would have said there. But also just cards in the graveyard are a resource. And it might not even be your deck, right? You might be playing mono white, like soldier tokens or whatever, soldier tribal or something.
Yeah.
Well, let's say bird tribal.
Bird tribal.
But maybe somebody else will cast like Living Death or Patriarch's Bidding.
Yeah.
Or Exhume. And that's not a card that was in your deck, but because you got milled, you now have these extra resources, right? So I really do look at it positively. And like, there's been times like when like people are like milling just to mill, like they're not trying to win via mill, and they target somebody that's playing Emery, and I'm like, no, what are you doing? Or like Muldrotha.
Yeah.
Right? They target a Muldrotha player, and it's like, no, don't do that.
God.
Like you're giving them cards. You're basically saying draw 5 cards.
What deck was I playing the other day when someone's like, you're going to get milled for 15? I was like, cool.
I think it was Emery, wasn't it?
Emery?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I was just like, cool. I was like, flip. I'm like, yes, all these new and interesting possibilities.
Right? So another thing is that sometimes it does sting if your deck is built on a specific 2-card combo.
Yeah.
Right? If you have no way to get stuff back from your graveyard and like one of your Blood Bond combo cards gets put to the graveyard, you're like, oh no, now I can't do that.
Right.
Right? So I totally get that argument. And that actually is something that some of the folks, because we did a poll, which we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Yep.
We did a poll on Twitter and some folks did respond with that. And that's a valid point. So one thing that I want to say is that like, when I'm building decks, I try not to rely too heavily on 2-card combos like that.
Right.
Actually, I usually don't include them in my decks mostly at all, but that's a personal preference thing.
You include the 7-piece combo, right? Not the 2-piece?
Well, I mean, you know, I do talk to Andy Bentley from time to time, and he's like, hey, you should try the 7-piece. And I'm like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I know. He just sends you like these 7 cards in a DM. He slides into your DMs with these 7 cards.
But no, but seriously, like, I tend not to make my decks that way because, you know, it's a 100-card singleton and you're not guaranteed to draw the cards. And so sometimes I'll include them in my decks, but it's definitely not like my primary game plan.
Yeah.
It's definitely more of like, oh, it'll be cool if this ever happens.
Yeah. Like I'll straight up, like, this is something that I did like last night. I think it was last night. Maybe it was today. I don't remember. But I have a 2-card combo in Emery. I have Microsynth Lass and Karn. Right?
Oh, you're bad and you should feel bad.
If you'll let me finish my story, Todd.
All right, I will.
But Microsynth Lass does nothing without Karn. I mean, it makes a Vandal Blast much more devastating.
Much more scary for sure.
I mean, but there's nothing really I do with it in my deck other than pair it with Karn.
Sure.
And I was like, well, I'm going to take this out because what's the chances of me drawing this? And maybe I draw a card that's better, that doesn't rely on another card to be good. So I was like, oh, this is a Warm Coral Engine now.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. That does seem better, right?
And then I was like, well, Karn, you do a thing, but you do a thing that really upsets people because Karn turns off people's mana rocks, and turns out they don't like that. And I was like, well...
And if Microsynth Lattice is in play, it turns off lands, too.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, like, I took that. I was like, it's a 2-card combo, and I'm like, I'd rather have Shadow Spear and worm coil engine in my deck.
Yeah, I can get behind that. And again, this is really only relevant if you don't run a whole lot of tutors.
Yeah.
Because if you have 12 tutors in your deck, then those
You'll
2-card combos tend to make a lot more sense, right?
And I'm like you. I don't run a lot of tutors. And also, I try to build redundant ways to win in my deck, right? I'll have that 2-card combo, or I'll have that 7-piece combo that I'm never going to assemble, but that one time that I do, it's freaking awesome, right? But like, I have more than one way to win, right? You know, we were talking about with Emery. I was like, well, do I have ways? How about? And I was like, you know, I have infinite mana. Mana rocks and dramatic reversal and Icecrown Scepter are a thing. But I also have like Mirrored and Besieged.
Yeah, and Aetherflux Reservoir.
Yeah, things like that. Like it's having a diverse strategy in your deck and not just relying on one thing. And that's just how we build our decks, I think.
I'll give you a good example of like how I do this, which is specifically, yeah, indeed. I put like Handwear Garrison and Handwear Battlements in my deck.
And that's one of those cards that goes like this, right?
Yeah, it like melds together, right? Yeah. And you know, one of the cards in the deck is good on its own, like the land that you can just give things haste.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's pretty good. So I'll run that, and it's like, well, it only takes 1 card slot to run this other thing. And yeah, I don't have a lot of ways to tutor it. And no, my deck doesn't like auto win when I make it happen. But the times when I have melded that card and like got to see it in the battlefield, it's so fun. Right? So that's the way I approach these. But
that's how I feel about what is that land that flips over that's like that? It's from Innistrad. It's the one, the soldier one. It turns over into like a 7/8 or something crazy if you like sacrifice like 8 creatures.
Westvale Abbey.
Yeah, Westvale Abbey. I love that card.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's like you run that card, and like if it gets milled, you're like, oh well, okay, I'm not going to do that cool thing this game. And same thing. Like if one of the pieces of the Handwear meld gets milled, I'm like, oh okay, fine. Like
I got other ways to win.
Honestly, like the argument should be you probably shouldn't be running the other one because it's not very good. But to me, it's worth it for those times that you hit that sweet, like super magic card that's real big.
That's part of the casualness of how we play, I think, too. Like we want to see cool things happen.
Okay, so it's time to move on into the Twitter polls.
Yep.
Right? Okay. And we've got some links to a spreadsheet because we were very serious about this.
Yep.
And the first one was, how does it make you feel, or how does it make you feel when you're milled by an opponent?
Right.
We
should have clarified that question. I think that it was interpreted that we meant milled out, like you got killed by mill,
right? As
opposed to being like just milled for like 5 at random or something. So 25% of the people said they were happy about it. That's more than I thought. The weird one, it surprises me. 47.4% said they were just completely indifferent. They didn't care.
Yeah, and that makes more sense when you think about it from the, oh, well, you got milled out. So it's like, oh, well, I lost, right?
Yeah,
but I don't feel any worse than if I lost a different way.
Right, exactly.
And so that was kind of our bad for phrasing it that way.
Sorry. And then 20% said sad.
And we should note here there were 80 responses. So
that's pretty good. That's a pretty good slice of the group.
And so for the folks out there that feel sad, hopefully this episode is
making you feel better.
Yeah. Or at least
indifferent.
Yeah. Maybe it's making you feel different. No, hopefully it's making you just kind of like think about this. Like, is it such a bad thing? Or, are there some possible upsides that you're overlooking? Right. So I think we have a couple of responses they're kind of interesting here as well. Right.
So open that spreadsheet up. Let me make it
slightly bigger.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that the point here is, we're not telling you how to feel, but we would really like to hear how you feel, right?
Yeah.
Like, so whether we changed your mind or not, that'd be, it'd be awesome to hear either way, right? So do you have a couple of these responses that you want to read off?
Let's see. At Doug Y Nerd said, I've never understood the hate that mill gets. If anything, I'm happy to see someone milling because it's going to benefit me because if I care about my graveyard.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. So let's see. What else on here is pretty good? Let's see.
Dolfo, DOLFO 10564 said, I like stuff in my graveyard.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That's kind of my way. And then so we've got Kith and C here that says, I love it. I usually have some recursion. They have opted out of the typical win approach, so they have an uphill battle. Also, there are plenty of cards. I can scroll to the right to find more. Maybe, possibly. Also, there are plenty of cards I can go through to defend against mill if that particular deck can't handle being milled. So, I don't know. It's a good way to think about it. What else? Scout _ salvage said, fill that yard for me, baby. And if I lose in the process, hey, gotta go something.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think this kind of shows like because we also ask people to respond with comments, not just like yes or no or happy, sad, or indifferent in the polls.
There's one response that I'd like to read. It's from Commander ad Populum at CAD Popcast. Mostly indifferent. If it makes me happy, they generally know that before they do it, so my deck gets passed over in favor of some other less graveyardy strategy.
Props for graveyardy strategy, right? That's definitely my kind of. That's the way I like to phrase things.
I just want to know, when I have a graveyard strategy, you know what card I'm looking out for? Grafdigger's Cage.
Zing!
Right? Like, if I'm gonna do some graveyardy stuff, I'm probably playing green, so I probably have artifact removal, and I probably get rid of that Grafdigger's Cage before any shenanigans happen. But that's just me. That's just how I play. I'm not telling at CAD Popcast how to play. I'm just telling them how I would play.
Okay, so similarly, we asked another question, which was, how does it make you feel when an opponent, Gonti, Lord of Luxury, targets you? Right?
Yep.
And we had 78 responses to this.
Oh, that's pretty good.
And we got 24% happy, 47% indifferent, and 29% sad. So these numbers are...
Does it say 29% on there?
Well, maybe Twitter rounds up.
Weird. I don't know why I had okay, whatever. So we had some cool responses there on what people had to say regarding that. Let's load that up. Let's get it a little bigger.
And actually, one thing I'm curious about, are we equating things that should not be equated? Are milling and Gonti very different in your opinion? Yeah. I'd like to know, audience.
Yeah, I'd listen to a discussion. I'd have a discussion about that.
Because I'm honestly, and I'm asking the question genuinely, because I'm not sure. To me, they occupy some of the same space in my head. Well, but I'm not I don't know that they're exactly the same.
They're not exactly the same, but the way that I see it, I mean, granted, you have your limit. Other commander players are limited by their colors, but they could just as likely be playing the same card that you're playing, or something that does more or less the same thing and draw it off of the top, just as likely as you are.
Yeah, maybe not in mono black when you're running Gonti.
Yeah, it's true.
But I don't know. I think part of it may be like when somebody beats me with my own cards, like I actually kind of have like a little sense of joy because I'm like, oh, my cards did the thing they were supposed to do.
Right.
But I think sometimes folks also maybe think like, oh, well, I hate losing to my own stuff. Like I think that's a genuine way to feel. And so I think it is slightly different from the millstone topic, but they, like I said, I think they kind of occupy the same headspace, and I think it's the same kind of thing that beginners think about. So that's why we did it, but let us know what you think.
For sure.
But here are some excellent responses to the Gonti question.
My favorite's from @DGrinnis, nervous. I mean, I don't feel that way, but I think that was a great response.
My favorite one was from David at Year of EDH. Triggered, period. Then no responses to the target. Then I let it resolve.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a Ryan answer. I like Wolfie Star 123's answer. Happy because they think I have the best stuff. Sad if I'm the only one at the table that would have anything that can cast that matters.
I actually really like this one from Mono Whiteboarder on Twitter. How do you feel? Like they've made a horrible mistake.
That's a good one as well.
We've got one from a patron here, David Saunders. I say indifferent, but some of the times I'm really not happy because the deck's built around that one card and I don't have to worry about it being exiled. And again, with Millstone, that and this is not the Millstone example, but with Millstone, you're like, oh, well, maybe I can get it back, or my deck's not built around it. But with Gonti, I've definitely legitimately done this thing where it's like, oh, one of the top 4 is Dramatic Reversal. Yeah, I'm going to take that and I'm never going to play it. And now that combo is unavailable to that deck. I've definitely done it.
So I'm wondering about this now. I'm thinking about it. So maybe it is being Gontied is a little worse than being milled. Not by much, but you don't get that. Well, I don't know. It was deck from the top of your deck. It could be anything. I was thinking maybe because you don't get the information of it going into your graveyard and knowing what it is. Like, you don't get that information. I don't think it's better or worse. It's just different.
Yeah, like, for example, like maybe they did take one piece of your 2-card combo and now that other piece has no value, but you still might play it because you don't know.
Right.
So there is a difference.
That's my favorite part about Blood Bond. Both pieces are good. Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond, both good by themselves.
Anton, at All Hail Bolus, said, I feel thrilled because I know how badly they can destroy me with all of my weird cards. And that's kind of the way I feel about it. I really do like it when people like, I think it happened. They took my Mnemonic Betrayal and they were like, I love this card. I'm so glad you were playing it. And then like after the game, like, cause they didn't cast it, but I was like, oh yeah, I'm glad I'm playing that card too.
That was with Peyton and Lucas too, I think, right?
Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah, I don't know. Like, it's just, that's the way I feel about stuff. Right. So, are there any more responses we want to talk about here?
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Cool. All right. So that was the Twitter poll. Hopefully that like provided some entertainment. Hopefully the folks out there in Twitter land enjoyed hearing us talk about their responses. I know I really enjoyed reading them.
Yeah, for sure. And like this again is like one of the reasons we love the community is people participate and leave these like funny, like cool, or like remarks like this, right? Like no one's just like, I'm sad. They're like, I'm sad because of this, and it's funny. It's like a joke. Like, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the last bit here is going to be, what are some strategies you can do if you are being milled too much or something like that, right? And there's just a couple little things we thought about, which is, obviously run more removal. We're big proponents of removing artifacts and enchantments, counter spells if they cast Traumatize, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
Orglim's Unthinkable.
Yeah, there you go. Orglim's Unthinkable. Yeah, right. Exactly. But, if you're really worried about being milled, you can just pop a single Kozilek Butcher of Truth or Ulamog of the Infinite Gyre in there, right? And like, if it ever gets milled, everything comes back.
Is it like the sandwich?
Yeah, of the Infinite Euro.
Yeah,
and that's why he ceaselessly hungers.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
It all ties together.
Yeah. Everything is connected.
And, for example, if you don't like people taking your cards with something like, say, Gonti or Grenzo, you can run Homeward Path, which is a land, comes and play untapped, taps for colorless mana, and you can tap it and everybody gains control of all the stuff that they own. Right?
Yeah.
So these are just some options we thought about to possibly include to maybe help you have some weapons against these things. Not that it particularly matters if this episode is to be believed, but is it? Let us know. So there you go. I think the summary here is that being milled can be a good thing. And I tend to look at it as such. Even if I know somebody's going to Bojuka Bog me, I'm still like, yeah, mill the top 20 from my deck, please. Like, I want to know. I want to know what I'm not going to have this game.
Right.
I want to, make a better, more adjusted plan. And I don't know, maybe that makes me a nerd, but I'll proudly say it. So I'm a nerd. All right.
I mean, I guess I am one too, since you brought me around to your way of thinking.
Welcome to the nerd side. I don't know. But so out there in audience land, let us know how you felt about this episode. We're really curious.
Yeah.
Did you like this deep dive into some of the feeling and psychologies? Did you feel this was a possible level up episode?
Right.
Did we change our mind?
Yeah.
Are we wrong?
Yeah. Did we not change our mind? I mean,
we want to know.
Yeah. Let us know. Like, you can like definitely like tweet us or comment or whatever. Like, we're still like, it's like when Ryan and I originally had the conversation. We're still open to having our minds changed. Like, do it.
That's actually
we dare you.
That's one of the great things about doing this is that we get to have these conversations and we get to have our opinions checked and our minds opened. And
for sure.
And I definitely have come around to different things on a lot of different things because of the folks out there. So special thanks to our super patrons. You can check us out at patreon.com/commandersocial and join at the Your Name in Lights tier if you want to be here as well. All right. So thank you so much for making it all the way through this episode with us. We really appreciate all of your feedback. And if you want to hit us up on Twitter, please do so. And if you want to check us out at patreon.com/commandersocial, we would really appreciate that as well.
Yep.
So until next time, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Zack.
Saying, keep it social.